Here we go. Let's go ahead and begin. This is my final project for interactive fractions instructional design for ETD 543, and I am Mark Fashel. To begin our context, that would be the teacher, and this is for a teacher at the grade level of 5th grade, and the primary subject would be mathematics. The problem, I just completed my 5th year of teaching in an elementary school setting. After completing my 2nd year of teaching the 5th grade, and after long discussions with some faculty members, we have discovered a problem. The issue we are having at my school is that many of the students throughout many grades are struggling with the concept of fractions in math. We currently use the Saxon math curriculum in our school. The problem we are finding with this curriculum is that it doesn't allow students to build a concrete foundation in this particular area. The book introduces a concept and doesn't allow for a lot of practice before moving on to a new topic. In doing so, I wanted to create a supplemental unit on fractions that gives students more practice and allows them to build a solid foundation on these concepts. The needs analysis. The need is to create a unit on fractions that allows students to spend more time on practicing and for students to fully grasp and get a deeper understanding of this concept. To do this, instructors have to use the technology and resources they possess along the way. The use of the interactive board and the websites that are available can be great to generate practice and allow students to manipulate fractions to grasp the concept. The need is for the students to use the resources that are available and for the instructor to make them accessible, instructional, and effective. Instructional strategies. The instructor will use different teaching techniques to allow students to grasp a deeper understanding of fractions. The teacher will begin each lesson with an attention-getting method to ensure students are grasping the practical use of the concept in an everyday life situation. Students will be given the opportunity to work with manipulatives, which allow them to receive a more hands-on approach. Students will also be allowed to show what they have learned through instant feedback with the use of their whiteboards and markers. Finally, students will be given the opportunity to use games on websites that will allow them to practice the skills they have learned. Implementation. In the lessons of this unit, they will be taught in the latter half of the school year. The reason for this is that students will have a better understanding of what the Saxon math curriculum has already covered, and this time period allows students to already be familiar with the rules of the computer lab and how to log on and work through websites. Students will also be familiar with how the interactive board works and will feel more comfortable with manipulating the board. There will be 10 lessons in the unit, and 2 of which will be in the computer lab. The last lesson will end with students taking a post-test to demonstrate what they have learned. Evaluation. The students will be evaluated in many ways throughout this unit. First, students will be evaluated on a daily process in each lesson. They will be given problems on the interactive board which will require their instant feedback on their whiteboards. This allows the instructor to visually see how they are doing. The next step in evaluation will be that students will be given a worksheet following the lesson in which they are to complete on their own. This will allow the instructor to see if the student can hold on to the information for a longer period of time. Finally, the students will be evaluated on a final post-test. This test will be cumulative and will cover all parts of the unit on fractions. The students should receive an average of 75% or higher on the post-test. Lessons learned. When planning lessons on this unit, it is important to follow the ETD model. This model helps teachers hit all the major areas of instruction. One of the most important components that I have learned and used from the model would be the analysis step. This step helps the instructor focus on the area that is in need. This gives the students a reason for learning this concept, and without it, would make the educational portion of the lesson weak. Some of the things that I decided to put in this presentation would be the interactive Promethean software. If you take a look, it says this is an example of one of the many lessons used with the fractions unit. These pages allow students to manipulate fractions and give them the ability to come up to the board and create answers on their own whiteboard. So if I were to come over here and scoot, this would just be an example of one of the lessons and how you can pick up and manipulate the fractions, drag, rotate them, and use them in the classroom to form some fractions like so. Continuing on, we have another lesson very similar in which you can manipulate pieces of pizza. I'm not going to get too in-depth in those lessons, but just to give you some examples of how to manipulate them, what is in them, I put a few in here. The websites that I have that are accessible for parents and teachers for the use in the classroom and at home are up here, and if I scoot over to the website, we can show you how they work. Students can change, answer questions, move on to the next, and as you take a look and see, students are going to have to solve for slices of pizza to solve the fraction. So with some practice and with the use of the board, students can manipulate to solve for fractions. Another website that I put on here, which I will show you, would be fruit fractions. See if I can find it and put it up for you. And it allows for adding of fractions, and you can change it to different denominators, similar denominators, but it allows students to have a little fun while they are playing around with fractions. And allows them to add fractions, and they seem to really enjoy it. And if they do a wrong one, it shows the wrong one, it shows the right one, which is a very helpful game. Back to the presentation. This is an example of the worksheets that go along with each lesson. Just an example of one of them to show you that yes, they do take these things home, they work on them, bring them back, and lessons. This also helps just support the concept that we were discussing for the day. Finally, the last thing I put up here was the post-test. When the unit's all said and done, students are allowed to, or they're going to take the test, and this helps the instructor see how they are doing, how the unit was taught, and can make changes for the following year, if necessary. Finally, in conclusion, in creating this unit and implementing a new concept, this has been a very difficult task. I do feel like I have learned a lot about the instructional design process, and I plan on using many of the concepts that I have learned throughout my continuing education. Thank you. God's bless.